Hello and welcome back to Kevin Can't Play Today, the game show where everybody always loses. I'm your host, Kevin. Well, since the other game I wanted to film today couldn't be shown, for some reason I couldn't get to pop up on the recording studio, so yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that one first, though. I finally broke down and got into the Mass Effect series and I'm almost finished with Mass Effect 2, and I have thoroughly enjoyed them. Starting with Mass Effect 1, and that's what I was wanting to show, but for some reason I couldn't get it to play. Um, but, I'll keep trying. Maybe we can get Mass Effect 2 to play once I do that character up in Mass Effect 1. Because I started a whole new character and everything just for the channel. But yeah, that kind of failed. So yeah, we're not doing that today. Today we're doing Plane Mechanic Simulator. Another one I've had in my library for a while and played a bunch of that I have thoroughly enjoyed. It's done by Disaster Studio, and we'll get rid of that. And it's a neat game set in the early 40s during the Blitz or the Battle of Britain. And yeah, you're the flight mechanic for an aircraft during that period of time. You start with a Tiger Moth trainer, a little four-cylinder biplane that was used as the primary trainer for the RAF. And then you work your way up to Spitfires, and then onto the Mosquito later on. What's kind of neat about it is you get these little reports here that kind of tell your pilot kind of tells you what's been going on and kind of gives you ideas of what needs to be done. So I've gotten a little bit done already. I've refueled it, and we got some other work. So let's go ahead and. Oops, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry, it's been a while since I've played. So yeah, we gotta do things. What do I have on me? What we need to do? Okay, so we got a couple of. Hold on. This is why Kevin can't play today. So yeah, we got two of the. Where we got the four guns on that side, all stripped down, ready to go. Let's go ahead and get some odd lag here. Get those patches off. It's been a minute since I played the game. It's one I've been kind of meaning to show off for a while. The detail is really high. Which is really nice. I mean, and I've actually got on a much lower graphics than it can go. Yeah, like most things, because I'm poor. Let's up the breech cover. But yeah, if you ever wondered what the guys behind the scenes of the pilots had to do, this is it. Another neat thing about this game is there are a lot of timed missions, which to me are usually very annoying, but set in this context, it's very realistic to what the ground crews had to deal with, as they often had limited time between when that plane had to be off the ground again to continue on. Sometimes pilots and crews wouldn't sleep for days, um, or they would get as much of a nap as they could in between um, the pilot being in the air and the while the pilot would be in the air, the ground crew would take as much of a nap as possible, and while the pilot was on the ground, he would take as much of a nap as possible as it took for them to refuel, rearm, and reload the airplane. Um, so yeah, the Battle of Britain was a tough time, and some of the biggest complaints about the game come from the timed missions. Um, but there are various ways to mitigate that. You do gain rank in the game. You level up, so to speak, um, depending on how good you do on the missions. And you can buy skill points that allow you to mitigate some of the time penalties. One of the skills allows the give you kind of more of a head start for it, so you're not as you got a little bit more time to work on stuff. You get a 5 and 10 minute boost, I think, respectively. And then there's other skills that allow you to do like unbolt multiple bolts at a time, because you have assistants that are helping you out with some of them. So yeah, there's a lot of things, and also there's things that kind of show you with with more of a glance what's wrong, um, instead of having to um, inspect each part in specific. You can kind of just take a glance and see what's wrong with it, which makes identifying the problem go a lot faster. So yeah, there's ways to mitigate the time issue and still give that feeling of urgency that I like about that system. Yeah, about having the timed missions. Um, Gives that sense of urgency that is often lacking in games like this. Yeah, like I said, I like that little sense of urgency. Dang it, come on. This one access panel is always kind of a pain. But yeah, and also with the timed missions, they're not necessary. You can actually turn them off in the main menu. I like them because it gives you that kind of sense of urgency, and you gotta be kind of on top of your game and know what you're doing to pull them off. Like, I've managed to completely strip down, fix, and reassemble a Tiger Moth in 15 minutes. I was pretty proud of that. So it gave me a nice sense of accomplishment there. Alright, so that's all the guns. What else we need? Okay, so we just need to rearm them. much easy, but yeah, I kind of wanted to show you a little bit more over here. That's why I left the ran into the propeller blade. Kind of wanted to show you this. Oh, I'm still crouching. Why am I still crouching? Oops. There we go. Yeah, I mean, it's got the full engine, and you can take it apart all the way down to the block, basically. Um, you gotta figure out spark plugs, you gotta figure out pistons, piston rings, the whole 9 yards. You get to know one of these engines inside and out pretty well. You have to refuel the airplane most of the time. Put oil in it. Put coolant in it. We'll go ahead and put this back on since you don't need to do anything. You've taken the engine apart this time. Yeah, everything's very highly detailed, very accurate. The other, oops, wrong one. Playing games where you hit escape to go back from what you were doing. And this one, it's right click. I want to come over here real quick and show you something else. Yeah. Got the pilot's compartment there, the cockpit, all highly detailed, very accurate to the way it was. You got various tools to kind of help you out here. Anytime you have to deal with the wheels, taking tires off, changing tires, you got your jacks there. Place on the wings and that big kind of swing looking thing back there past the tail. That's the tail jack. You need that to calibrate the guns. Coolant. You got your oil tank there. If you need to refill the gas, there's a petrol truck that sits right there that you pull the hose off of and go to refuel it. Over here you have the harmonization board, which allows you to sight in and group the guns together. Something very important for accuracy. And back over here you have your workbench. Some of the parts that you pull off that are damaged, you can restore to full functionality with a little kind of mini game there, and that saves you a lot of points. Gives you a lot higher. There's a patrol right above us. There's more Spitfires. It's a little choppy on my end, just because I've got the settings turned down pretty low. You can kind of see the rest of the airfield out there. That's a full-size airfield. Well, let's get some parts here. They get too close to it. Sometimes you're not quite in the right spot, it won't. Doesn't like you doing stuff. Come on. What's going on? Come on now. There we go. Alright. Let's get some new parts here. Sign out for them. And yes, you do have to sign. Or at least, do initials. I think that's kind of cool. You actually have to sign off on the stuff. these gun patches, new gun patches on. It's basically just some fabric flight tape. And you might wonder why this is. Why bother with these? Well, for one thing, it shows if you fired your guns or not. And this is good for a couple different things. Um, One, to show the first one is to really show uh, whether or not that gun may have jammed up before while in combat. Um, so it shows you've got a faulty gun, or it can also show that you've not fired at anything when you said you did. But its primary purpose is actually to keep things from the inside of the barrel before combat, so you don't get any dirt or dust or rain or water vapor, anything like that in the barrel of the gun before combat. Because after combat, they're probably going to have to be cleaned and stuff anyway. Or they're definitely going to have to be cleaned and stuff anyway, so it doesn't matter if a little bit of stuff gets in there afterwards. But you don't want anything gumming up the works before you start the shooting. So yeah, the tape just kind of signifies the gun's in good shape and you're good to go, as long as your ground crew like me have done their job. And it allows you to just kind of see if anything went wrong with any of the guns. What we're doing it now is putting our ammo boxes back in on this wing. And just buttoning everything up. The other big complaint I've heard about this game is the pacing. It's not a terribly exciting game, except for with the timed missions, which happen more frequently when you're working on the Spitfires, because that's right at the height of the Blitz when time was definitely of the essence. The game does take place in multiple points of the war. I think 1941 or 1940 for the Tiger Moths, and then more towards the height of the Battle of Britain with the Spitfires. And then you get the Mosquitoes, start working on the Mosquitoes after D-Day. Think of all the planes to work on, I think the Spitfire is probably my favorite. Mostly because you don't need the ladder a whole lot. Alright, gotta feed the ammo belt in. Now we can close the breech. Otherwise the gun won't fire. It kind of gives you a little kind of a ghostly view of what can be installed, if you haven't noticed that, which can be nice, especially if you've got a whole bunch of crap taken apart. Like the Spitfire has a V12 engine in it, and the Mosquito has two V12 engines in it, so it can sometimes be a bit of a pain when you've got everything taken apart to not miss something without that little bit of a kind of ghost part. You can play it on expert mode too, which you kind of really have to know what you're doing on, because that doesn't give you the ghost bit there, and it also doesn't give you these yellow highlights around the screws and bolts and such. So you really have to know what you're doing at that point. I have played it on expert mode, and it's not easy, but once you got the hang of the plane that you're working on, it's not too hard. And the game doesn't is pretty good about not ramping you up too much. So when you first start working on a plane, it gives you some pretty light maintenance stuff to do, so you don't get overwhelmed and kind of thrust into a situation you have absolutely no idea how to deal with. Alright, that part's done. Get our ammo put back in. We're just about done with this one. Alright, this is a game I've had for a little while and been kind of wanting to show, and just kind of keep forgetting to record a video. So when I failed to record the game I wanted to record, I saw this on the list. I'm like, yeah, we should do that one. I've been wanting to do that one for a while. And it's the pacing thing isn't a big deal for me. For me, these type of simulator games, like the PC Repair Sim, the Car Mechanic Simulator, Plane Mechanic Simulator, I get them for the just kind of a fun game where I can just kind of zone out, get into some puzzles. So that's all any of these are, is just puzzles. Except for these are puzzles with broken pieces. You gotta figure out what's the broken pieces. Sometimes by taking apart the puzzle. And I think they're very educational. You always learn something. Like before playing this game, I didn't know, how complicated it was to make sure an aircraft was fit for combat. And what the guys on the ground had to do. You hear all the stories about the guys that take them up into the air, but you don't hear much about the guys that have to patch them back up later. And that is a thing. You have to, on some of the missions, you have to patch the plane back up. Put patches on it. Because it got shot up a bit. And you lose pilots sometimes. Have to get whole new airplanes. Start with whole new airplanes, whole new pilots. And if you're invested in reading the reports from the pilots and kind of get to know that pilot, it can really suck when you lose one. Get kind of invested in it. You're the crew chief, so it's your plane, so it it sucks when your plane gets lost. Not to be walked on. We're going to ignore that. I know what I'm doing. As for the pilots, they don't know what they're doing. They'll walk on anything. But yeah, so in terms of pacing and repetitiveness, it doesn't really bug me so much. Um, because it's not why I got the game. Yeah, if you want, heart-stopping action non-stop, go for a shooter or something, not a not a mechanic game. But if you want to learn how a World War II airplane goes together, and you just kind of want to relax and play a nice, calm puzzle game, here this game is pretty good. Actually, it's very good. Um, the only criticism I can give the game, really, um, is the load times. The load times between missions and even to get the game started can be sometimes excruciating. But it's also still early access. It's not even full release yet. Um, the devs do work on the game, though. Every time they do manage to put out an update, it's significant. Um, but one of the complaints you'll see on the Steam page, especially, is that the devs don't do anything. Which is I've been playing it long enough to have gone through a few updates, and it's actual full release, and I can tell you that's bunk. That's not true at all. Um, they just don't waste their time on. Well, it's not waste of time, but they don't pump out patch after patch after patch after patch after patch. They identify a group of problems after every update, um, and then they work on those, and sometimes that'll take months. I think it's been since April, uh, April or May that we've had a major update, but it was a significant, massive update. And that was 4 months after the game release. Um, so they worked on it all that time in between. Um, so they've done a great job with it, and the price is actually really cheap. I think it's 12 or $13, something like that. Um, yeah, 12 or $13. I got a coupon for half off. Um, got it for $6. Um, yeah, it had a lot of mixed reviews, but since I got that coupon, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a shot, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. It's got a couple issues, a couple little minor bugs, but all in all, it's a very well done game. Very easy to learn, difficult to master. Um, but once you start getting some skill points in and stuff, it's not too bad. And like I said, it's just fun to kind of um, be the behind the scenes guy. In fact, this game will probably be featured in a series I'm working on. Um, they'll be coming up shortly. As soon as we start getting more scripting, and I got a few more games I want to pick up to be able to include in that. The uh, the game will be called, or the series will be called NPC, um, and it'll be about the guys behind the scenes on the games, the non-player characters. So, like using this one, I'd be the guy that is behind the scenes working on the stuff whereas the main players would actually be the pilots in a flight sim, and I'm the guy that's the NPC that's making sure everything's running right behind the scenes. another game where I'll be the shopkeeper that sells stuff to the main party adventurers and stuff. Yeah, I'm talking to a few people that'd be doing guest spots on that. Um, and stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. But yeah, like I said, there's a little bit, quite a bit more prep work on that one. But yeah, games like this will be the kind of the focus of that series, where you're the guy behind the scenes, or I'm the guy behind the scenes doing the stuff. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this game. And like I said, look at how pretty it is and how detailed it is. And yeah, the longer the plane is around, the more distressed it gets. I mean, you can see here the paint wearing off. Whereas when this was a brand new plane we got, it was full. There was like no wear and tear. But the longer the plane goes, the more little flakes of paint come off of it, and the coloring kind of changes a little. And let me see if I think we put some patches on this one somewhere already. Let me see if it's on the other side. Um, and all this stays there throughout the course of the lifetime of the plane that you're working on. Okay, it doesn't look like we've patched this one yet. This one's pretty early into. I'm pretty early into Spitfires on this playthrough, so we don't have any of that quite yet. But yeah, pretty soon we'll be slapping some patches on this thing. And sometimes you'll have to get the plane ready to be sent to be repainted because it's got an inspection or something. It needs to be repainted, and so then it'll come back all nice and clean and no missing paint. But yeah, a lot of attention to detail in this game, which is highly appreciated. Um, very highly appreciated, and yeah, this is on very low settings too, so it's a very very pretty game, um, even on crap systems like mine. Um, so yeah, if you're into taking stuff apart, putting them back together, I highly recommend get this game for its price point. It's um, very well worth it. Again, this is like my second playthrough, so um, I'm doing it without timers on this one. No, third. Well, 2.5. I've got a parallel playthrough that I'm playing that's in full expert mode with timers still on, so that one's gotten a bit hairy, but I'm about the same point in the game. So, anyway, like I said, hope you liked it. Hope you give it a try if it's something that at all interests you. I think it's very much worth the price. Just don't worry if the first time you load it, it takes a long time for it to load. It'll probably do it eventually. I know I restarted the game a couple times before, or reset my computer a couple times because I thought it was all stuck when it was just taking a long time. Um, yeah, and that is one thing that the devs have talked about that working on is kind of streamlining the loading process so that it doesn't take absolutely forever. But for all the detail and stuff that's shoved into this game, kind of not surprised that load times take a while. So, like I said, just be patient with the load times, and you know you'll be fine. And it's a lot of fun to just kind of explore how some of this stuff's put together. But anyway, I've droned on for long enough, and I will hopefully see you all in the near future. What am I doing? There we go. And yeah, this one's all ready to go. So I'll sign off on it and sign off on the video.